Good morning. My name's Kyle Bennett, and I'm here to talk to you today about a common leadership challenge. My challenge is one that I believe is on the rise in modern organizations, and it's one that I've experienced in my personal journey as a leader, and that is the cost of emotions for leadership. So, over the past few decades, we've seen a shift in how emotion in the workplace is viewed both professionally and academically, and modern leadership is fundamentally emotional leadership. Organizations and employees want leaders who are authentic, emotionally intelligent, and who create psychological safety. But this requires leaders to show more emotional availability than they ever have before. And this is a good thing. Workplaces that enable people to bring their whole selves to work are, on the whole, more healthy, more creative, more innovative, and more productive than where employees feel suppressed. But it also means that leaders are exposed to a wider range of emotions from both internal and external stakeholders, and despite this, are expected to show up with the right emotion at the right time to meet the moment. So, when leaders face emotionally charged situations, there can be times where what they feel internally doesn't match the emotion that that moment requires. A leader might feel frustrated, disappointed, overwhelmed, or even excited, but the situation demands calm, empathy, or stability. When this mismatch occurs, leaders can shift into what's known as surface acting, where we project an emotion that differs from what we're actually feeling inside. And surface acting is one of the three ways that leaders perform emotional labor, but it is the one that's most consistently linked to negative effects on personal well being. Emotional labor itself is the process of regulating our feelings for organizational goals. And in this case, it's regulating our emotions to meet the needs of a situation, despite what we might feel internally for the benefit of the company. Surface acting is really draining because it requires ongoing self monitoring. We're always constantly checking in with what am I showing versus what am I feeling, and how that internal tension uses cognitive and emotional resources. Over time, the effort of projecting something into the world that isn't true to how you're actually feeling creates strain. And this strain has been shown to contribute to exhaustion, depersonalization, and reduced personal productivity, which are all core components and key contributors of burnout. So, by absorbing the emotions of others and acting out of line with what we genuinely feel, leaders can often find themselves experiencing exhaustion. And this erodes leader well being and fulfillment. And it matters because there's strong evidence that shows a direct relationship between leader well being and leader effectiveness. Leaders who are experiencing poor personal well being are far more likely to demonstrate destructive leadership behaviors, which might look like avoidant behaviors or outright hostility to direct reports. But it also affects their personal lives, as poor well being has been shown to affect personal outlook on life and even family relationships. To put it simply, leaders who are burned out, overwhelmed, or suffering from poor well being are just less effective, and they're less likely to achieve an organization's intended goals. Therefore, it's integral that leaders employ good strategies to manage their own well being in the face of the rise of emotions in the workplace. So, what strategies can leaders use to better safeguard their well being from the volume and volatility of emotions that they'll encounter? Well, first is relational energy management. So we know some relationships energize us and others drain us. Understanding which is which and planning work around that is really key to managing emotionally intense moments. Even small shifts like scheduling energizing interactions right after draining moments can help leaders recover in between emotional demands. Building recovery a strategy. Micro recoveries during the day can help, but the biggest gains happen across the weekend. There's good research that shows that detachment from work, relaxation, and mastery experiences can provide the strongest recovery effects. And leaders often skip recovery because they see it as optional, but the research shows us that investing in our recovery is one of the most effective ways to manage overwhelm and enter each new week feeling refreshed. And lastly, developing emotional awareness and regulation. So, emotional regulation is a core component of emotional intelligence. And we know that emotional intelligence can be developed over time. But because emotions in contemporary organizations are largely unavoidable, we actually have a responsibility to build the capability to compartmentalize the emotions of others and regulate ours in a healthy way. And this doesn't mean we need to suppress emotion at work, but it means we need to learn to respond intentionally rather than reactively. So, emotion in the workplace is not going away, and nor should it. The benefits of authenticity and connection in the workplace are far too great to suppress. But leaders are uniquely positioned to manage the bulk of interpersonal relationships in organization, and this can be costly to personal well-being. And this means that good strategies should be implemented to safeguard leader well-being and preserve effectiveness within an organization. Thank you.